Hi, this is Randy Finney with Right Side of the Chart, and today is Thursday, August 2nd, 2018. In this video, I want to do an overview of some trade ideas that stand out. A few weeks back, I mentioned pouring through the charts over the weekend and coming up with literally well over 100 setups, longs and shorts. And a lot of the longs have popped, a lot of the shorts have dropped too, and some went the other way. It's been earnings season, so I've been hesitant to put out a lot of official trade ideas. Some of the best looking patterns I'm coming across are scheduled to report. And, like I say, more often than not, if they're clearly bullish or clearly bearish patterns, whether it's the initial reaction or not, usually the charts will play out as indicated. Again, if it's clearly bullish or bearish. I mean, one example I'll give you, I did the automakers video the other day and showed you Tesla. I think I had it here. Yeah, on the 60-minute chart, this is what I had on Tesla. This nice, clean, bullish falling wedge pattern, confirmed with divergences. And here's Tesla. Popped up big today, 8%, right to resistance too. You can see this is a resistance slash target zone. And in pre-market, I mean, I think it almost hit that to the button. I think we were about 332, and I have that uppermost level at 331.40. So again, but you take it in front of earnings, even though there's a good chance the charts will play out this way. When I say more often than not, that's far from always, and that's the thing. You can have an 8-10% gap in your favor or against you. So earnings, there are some aggressive traders. And I want to say this before we get into these charts here. Know the history of your stock. There's certain stocks like Tesla, like Netflix, that have a history of big gaps after earnings in either direction. We saw that last couple gaps in Netflix, other than this most recent earnings, were to the upside. The previous one was to the downside. Same with Tesla. This thing, it'll typically um, just due to the nature of this company and their business model and the hype around the stock and the valuations and everything else, you tend to have gaps in either direction. So again, if it's not your cup of tea, you stand back and wait for the dust to settle and then look for an objective entry. And if I had to, looking at where we're at right now, I'd probably say, this wedge is pretty much played out. And this wasn't even, well, it was covered in the automakers video the other day. But yeah, the wedge projects a little bit higher, but I just let the dust settle on that one since earnings just came out. Okay, sorry, I had to pause the video for a second there, so I'm picking back up after pausing the recording. Either way, so again, there's Tesla, point being right up to that, also to that 3388-ish resistance. So yeah, there's one that, again, you would have had to hold your breath and dive in before earnings and played out as the charts indicated. That's my point. Not that, again, I wouldn't added that as a trade idea. I didn't take that one personally. Easy to tell you in hindsight, I wish I would have, but I don't regret that. I don't take big gambles like that one there. But anyways, it's how the charts tend to play out, even going into earnings. I mean, it'd be interesting one day if I had the time to just, in earnings season, go through all the stocks that I was most bullish and bearish on and kind of track those and see what percentage that were bullish actually, went up after earnings, the day of or the week after, and which percent of the bearish ones went down. And I'm highly confident it would be well over 50% success rate there. So maybe some kind of trading strategy to work on in the future. Alrighty, let's dive into some long trade setups. AOI, going in no particular order, just how I have these marked here. This one is tobacco stock, and it's at the this top of the wedge now. When I found it a couple of weeks ago, and I may have covered this in the long trade idea videos back then. Some of these are the same stocks, but I went through the list again and circled some of those that stood out. This one already reversed off this 1390. That was the most objective area to buy it. Now it's at the top of the it's at the downtrend line, which is forming a wedge type pattern. If I had to guess, just looking at this sucker, I'd say, resistance is resistance until unless broken, as I like to say. You have a lot of reactions on this trend line, 1, 2, 3, now 4, maybe another thrust down. I can tell you it's subjective if you can buy it around 1389. And there's a possibility if this one continues to drift lower, you can see how this wedge type pattern would come in here, and I have at the bottom of that support zone or next support level around 1237, so it could work its way down. So I'm not trying to give you conflicting, confusing information. I can tell you there's three objective levels I see here where to buy this stock: on a breakout above the downtrend line, on a pullback to the 1389 support level, or the 1237 support level. And of course, then that trend line break can come anywhere along there, and there's first targets way up here. And some of these I haven't zeroed in the targets. So as I always say, if I do these videos on these unofficial trade ideas and you're interested in any of those and you're a member, gold member, drop me a line in the trading room and I'll be glad to study the chart a little further and give you targets. Here's LCI Lannett Company. This is I believe, a drug manufacturer, specialty and generic. There's your bullish falling wedge pattern, positive divergences right there. You're at the bottom of the wedge, and you remember this. A bullish falling wedge is just, it's part of the, what you want for, you want to look for confirmation with bullish divergences. It tells you that it's just a chart pattern. And like any other trade setup, it's a trade setup until it triggers entry. Sometimes I will go long within the wedge at the bottom. I prefer to see support. In other words, if you had some price reactions down here, some nice decent support and a falling wedge, all the better, then you can go long at the bottom. But you don't have a buy signal per se until you get some type of bullish candlestick reversal pattern within the wedge or a breakout above the downtrend line. But you can see, so a couple ways to do it. You can try to take a shot at the bottom of the wedge. This stock is approaching that, what I call the sweet spot of the wedge. It's give or take around 70% towards the apex, but there's a pretty wide variance in there. And you can certainly take it. You can see it's been consolidating recently in this level here. You take a position, and it's all about RR, risk reward. So if you went here long at 1262 with a stop somewhat below, that somewhat below is dependent on your target. You can see my first target there, or the actual resistance. Set your sell limit a little below it, 1457, and then 17. That would be my preferred swing target based on this pattern right now. So you're talking about a 35% gain if it gets there, and therefore you can allow yourself a good 10% or so stop loss and still have a better than 3-to-1 RR on that one. So there's LCI. I had a note, see weekly chart. Here's a weekly chart now. This is something to note. The stock is in a downtrend. Obviously, you can see that. It's not rocket science. A downtrend is simply defined as a stock making a series of lower highs and lower lows, and that's what this one was. Just as this was an uptrend, and this was a sideways grind, sideways trading range there. So you have three trends: sideways, uptrend or bullish, and a downtrend or bearish. Now on this weekly chart, this weekly PPO is still pointing down. So there's really, this weekly chart hasn't firmed up yet. This is only what I call potential divergence. There was positive divergence right here. We even got a little bearish cross, but we've turned back down. So the momentum remains down on this one. There's not any solid support here on the weekly. There's a little bit of reactions here. I do think it's interesting, and that's why I wanted to point it out. And these indicators could firm up. I also note that it's oversold on the weekly chart. Oversold in itself. I always say this is not a buy signal, but it's an indication that the stock is oversold, may rally. This oversold reading here was the bottom. Now the thing is, that was mid 2011. This is a weekly chart. So you bought it, it never went lower. If you bought that tag right here, it was a one and done oversold reading. But if we take that line up, so look at it. So you got in right here, right there. The line should be just to the hair to the right of that. So right at the lows. And I'm looking at these candles. I can tell they didn't go below that level. They were slightly above it, but you were in it for, what is that, about a year and a half before the stock started to run. So that's, some people don't want to be in a dead money trade, and that's why I said it was a good area to go long if you had patience. And again, I do these videos for long-term traders, trend traders, investors, and this is more of a potential trend trade if you get the reversal here, but certainly on this daily time frame, these are swing targets right here. But there's more upside potential. We could work our way all the way up here over time. So there's LCI. I won't talk so much on the other stocks because I want to get through them all here and keep this video relatively short. So I'll just show you again what I see. I already did AOI, didn't I? Yes. I, yes, I did AOI. BKEP, I have a question mark by this one, meaning there might be something. Yeah, not one of my favorites, but there's a nice downtrend line to watch. There's levels, resistance levels. And this wouldn't be a price target that close. It would be a level I'd want to see both that downtrend line and the 302 level go. And then you also have some resistance here on 329, but if that breaks, this would be my next target up here, 384, and there's a big gap to be filled. So max target right now would be about 428. Nothing even close to a reversal. This is an energy stock, oil and gas midstream. Some potential divergence there, but still in a downtrend. And you guys know my view right now on oil. It's not so bullish, so take that one with a grain of salt. But I pass these trades along. whether or not I'm going to take them. I view my job for my subscribers is to pass along the most bullish and bearish setups, whether I take them or not. Sometimes my market bias may keep me um, tempered, may keep me out of shorts when I should be because I'm bullish on a sector, or keep me out of longs because I'm bearish on the market. I try to trade a diversified portfolio, and I usually do. I usually have at any given point some longs and some shorts, or a mix thereof. But again, I pass along the best looking setups, and it's up to you guys to take them. And sometimes my market views are wrong, or my reasons for passing on a stock, and a lot of these trades play out. So here they are for you. PBYI, Puma Biotech. We had a falling wedge here, breakout. We're back testing that wedge. Still back testing it from below. We're right at that previous low. So you have this, this stock is back to support. You could take a shot here. The problem about buying a back test is stocks can continue to back test a trend line or a wedge for quite a while, but this one is back testing right where it had support before. Excuse me, or the previous reaction. I can extend that divergence line right there. There's still bullish divergence in place, and I think is objective. You go long here with a stop somewhat below, and again, let me just reiterate, I have not scrubbed these stocks for earnings. So if I say, well, this one's objective here with a stop below, if you like it, take a check for earnings. There's that link on the front page to the earnings calendar. You especially biotechs, and also keep in mind, I try to highlight the sector. Of all sectors out there, uh, biotech is unique in the fact that normally all you have to worry about on most stocks is your earnings, quarterly earnings, and you know when that's coming. It's well announced. You can get out of the way. You can hedge up, take options, close your position. Biotechs, and especially the smaller biotechs, they have drugs in clinical trials, and at any given time, you can get positive or negative clinical data, and these things can jump up. And I've seen it before. They're prone to very large and completely unexpected gaps and rips based on clinical results and things like that. So just keep that in mind. And if it's not your cup of tea, avoid biotech stocks. If it is, just don't put too much in any one stock. So if you wake up to a 20, 30, 40% gap against your position, you're not going to be wiped out or feel too much pain. All right, SAFM. Sanderson Farms, bullish falling wedge, divergent. We had a divergent low here. We continue to extend those divergence. This one looks ready to pop. Minimum target right there is 110.50. I can certainly add another target here. And you know, this packaged food, so this is sort of a defensive play, and that's why again, as we go through these, you'll see I have a lot of different sectors. And you can see this one, you know, a little uptrend line there. Uptrend line was broken, big bearish or impulsive candle on the breakdown. And likewise, you want to see that ideally on a breakout. Breakouts should occur ideally on 1.5 times or better the average volume. And you can usually get the average volume from your broker or your charting service. And I'm referring to 60, 90, or 120 day average volume is what you want to look at there. All right, Sanderson Farms looks good. Again, hasn't triggered an entry. I'll tell you if any of these have already broken out. I don't think any of these have. Oh, I didn't mean to do that one. SBGL gold is just looking like death lately, but I like this little gold stock. Sibane Gold Limited, SBGL. Well-defined downtrend line, nice, clean, a lot of reactions, big divergence forming, and a lot of upside potential. If that wedge breaks out, I can just tell you, and gold, you know, gold starts to firm up. Some point it will, sooner or later. Hasn't yet, but this one has potential to come all the way up here, and you can see some other targets along the way. So that's a pretty big move. It's a $2.52 stock right now. If it went up here, it'd be about 140% return. So worth keeping on your radar, especially for you gold bugs, in my opinion. AOI, why is I hitting that one? Okay, some of these I might have duplicated on this watch list. I already covered that one. Next up would be PEI. I'm dealing with multiple pages here. I'm going to grab this PEI. Not one of my favorite, but we had a divergent low right here. It started to play out, and this is support right here. So this one, you know, looks good off 1016. If closer, you can buy to 1016 or 1015, the better. Why that level? Well, a lot of reactions back there along the way in the past couple years. So it danced around it here for a little bit, then broke below it, found it as resistance again. So I think that's a significant level, and based on that divergent low, this one's starting to play out. Now, the bigger picture is this sideways. Oh, wrong tool. Let me clear these annotations out, give you a box tool, and show you what I'm looking at. I see this sideways trading range, and so a swing trader this may continue for a while. You buy down here at 1016 or give or take as close as you can, a few pennies above maybe, with a stop somewhat below, and you sell on bounces back to the top of the range. That's how you trade a range bound stock. And yeah, it did break below the range for a little bit there, but you can see a lot of trades have occurred there. And you can short there or sell, take profits, and or look to position on a breakout sooner or later. And I do favor this one ultimately breaking out, especially considering that recent divergent low. I'm looking at the PPO turning back up. So right now, it's not crazy. I'm not crazy about chasing at 1082, but I don't think it's going to come back because we just hit that level. Once you hit it, that's usually it. That was your chance to buy. So you could jump in here at 1082. Again, your downside now, you have to give a little more for the stop, or you could use a stop up within the pattern just in case it makes another run for it. And excuse me, and you swing that up to the top of that range, even if it's just a swing trade, you're talking, 13, let's say 12% gain if you sell a little shy of there. Not bad. So 12%. Give yourself a three, no more than 4% stop loss. 4% stop loss would give you a 3-to-1 risk reward ratio. Not a bad trade. Not one of my favorites, but it's, I prefer just if you want to put a few wins under your belt, I think that one makes sense right now. GME, that's GameStop. GameStop just has a pretty well-defined downtrend line it's been tapping against. I could modify that trend line a little. There's a couple these reaction, this and this reaction there. This might be the trend line to watch, or I had it a little tighter a second ago. You can replicate these. And if you are new to the site and you want to replicate these charts on your own, I use log scaling. Otherwise, you're going to get a different picture. This is arithmetic scaling, and this is log scaling. It will render different trend lines. I like to use log scaling. In fact, I feel very strong about the use of log scaling on most charts, anything daily or weekly charts especially. Intraday charts, not as important, but there it is. So let's do what I call the BOD, benefit of the doubt trend line, since you don't want to jump the gun early, and you have this little symmetrical triangle pattern. You have resistance right here, 1554. So I think a pop above 1554 takes you to this trend line. And although it's not marked here, a lot of these charts I just rifled through real quick and made a little notation on my notepad. If I like the symbol, I just write the symbol down. But this is what I see. There was divergence here at the low, by the way, which is starting to play out. And where it goes, again, I'll give you targets later. I think 1840 or so looks like a good first swing target there. All right, let's move a little quicker here. Got a lot more to cover. TSM, I had a question mark. Taiwan Semi, oh, that one already played out. I had it from my watch list a couple weeks ago. You can see it broke out. There was a downtrend line rising wedge. And remember, overall, I've been bearish on the semi sector, but I'm not, there's still some components that look okay. And the sector still looks toppy, but we don't have a good, decent sell signal yet. And here's one where the technicals played out. Positive bullish divergence, well-defined downtrend line, boom, breakout and run. But right, it's coming up to resistance now. So, oh, that's, you know what? I put a question mark here because it's probably actually a short, but I shouldn't have covered it in this video because now the bullish scenario is played out, but I think almost to the extent I see 42.05, maybe this downtrend line, and then I think a pullback, so you could actually short Taiwan Semi. But I'm trying to do this video for the longs right now because I've gotten a lot out there. CNO, the train has left the station on that one. That was a financial company. It had this nice downtrend line. That one was asterisk from before. I must have covered that in the previous video, I believe. Yeah, the ones I have an asterisk on. Actually, NWL, I had an asterisk and I circled it yesterday. So this one may still go. We had a nice, strong, divergent low right here. Newell Brands, that's a defensive stock, household personal products. And I had two different downtrend lines. I have this minor downtrend line here and this primary downtrend line here, both taken out. It hit resistance. 28 is pretty significant resistance. That would have been my first target. It's pulled back a little, and I think it'll power up. So really on this one, what you can see is two levels. You can buy on a pullback to 24.32 or a little bit above there, maybe even right here about 25.40. You can see there's some support right here where the crosshairs are, or all the way down to here. and either sell in the next bounce back to 28 or wait to position on a breakout or add to your position there. And if so, I think it eventually works its way up here to 32.50. That's not a bad trade, especially for a defensive stock. You're getting a dividend on that one, 24% run, 3.5% dividend I'm showing right now. So that one's for you growth and income investors as well. And even if it grinds around here in a range, again, you're getting paid to wait on that one. So that's ALK is up next. Alaska Air has divergence, but I'm not so crazy now when you start to see these divergence lines flatten out on the zero line because this one's trading sideways. It's compressing, but I wanted to point it out. There's a downtrend line, divergent low. It could pop. If it does, 70-20. That's what I'd be looking for on that one. But again, not one of my favorites. PIR, this could be a turnaround play. Looks like it could. It's also maybe headed towards bankruptcyville. It's down around the $2 share price, 210. Who knows? Maybe private equity comes in and scoops up this one, gets a buyout or something like that, or some turnaround. Either way, excuse me, has a nice positive divergence, bullish divergence here. PPO starting to turn up. So again, lower price stock. Be careful with your position size, but there's some levels there. So 248, it's resistance. And let's just, I'll leave that there for now. About 250, there's some resistance. There's the downtrend line, 290. So even if you bought it here and swing it up to the downtrend line or 290, that's a 37.40, 38% run. If it breaks above the downtrend line, I can tell you right now, my target area would be from about 370 all the way up to this $4 level. So a lot of potential there, and I can certainly see that happening if this one can start to get some traction. A move up to the $4 level, that is. ITW, this Illinois Toolworks, yep. Bullish falling wedge, positive divergence, pending a breakout. We had one false break here, it didn't stick. But you're also coming up on support around 134.73, so you can try to buy it there. Stop below. We don't have any buy signals yet. Wait for, I think the next pop above 143.05 will do the trick. We already had one that proved to be a false one, but I think that's an important level. So you can either buy it down here, the bottom of the wedge, or that 143.73-ish level, or on a break above the wedge, especially 143.05. Minimum first target 150.46 and likely swing target up there around 158. That's ITW. ORA. ORA is Ormat Technologies, utility company. Breakout, but not impulsive yet. We haven't had a lot of follow through, not a lot of volume confirming this breakout. So maybe it comes in for a back test. If it does, let's move that line here. I can tell you this is decent support around 50.50. So if it happens a back test and you're looking for, well, no, the dividend's not that hot on that one. Let's get some minor resistance right here too. About 54.50. So it could pop up there. There's some potential there. There's some levels, but let's move on to the next one here. Okay, where was I? MO, another tobacco company. Breaking out of the downtrend line, but I'm a little skeptical about the downtrend line. But this one pays a nice dividend yield, 4.77%, and certainly has the potential to work its way up here if you guys are looking for a dividend play. And defensive stock. Tobacco companies are defensive stocks. I have nails circled here. I should have XHB. I was bearish on the home builders back here. I believe I did a video, and they certainly corrected. They've been setting up, and although it's not drawn out here, you have some pretty nice divergences building. So maybe a pop in the home builders coming, and but I'm a little skeptical because I just put up some charts in the trading room recently about Home Depot. You know what? Yeah, nail must track a different index because this doesn't look the same. Here's the XHB. And here's the other one, ITB. That's the iShares Dow Jones U.S. Home Construction Index ETF. And this one's dancing on support. So it has support here, some potential divergence. But you know what? I'm going to move off of that one. I'll have to look at the individual components. And again, I was recently pointed out in XHB, I think the biggest holding is Home Depot. So you can see, and I pointed this out, broke down from this bearish rising wedge. It is at support, and it does have trendline support not far below. And Lowe's is also another big one, and that just broke down as well. So scratch going long right now in the home builders until I get a better grip on that. Again, do what you want. I'll show you the chart patterns, maybe a little bounce. And And you can also game some of the individual home builders. Lowe's and Home Depot are not home builders. They're just in that ETF because they do all the, the area out there, obviously their affiliation with the housing market. All right, ARCO, ARCO. We only have about, it looks like maybe half a dozen more here, guys. Arco, falling wedge, coming up on support right there, divergence. But it looks to me, based on the posture of the PPO, turning down, being rejected off the zero line and pointing lower, this one's probably got to work its way lower before it's a viable setup. So I, you can take a breakout if it looks convincing, but this one might want to work its way lower within this wedge. So we'll revisit that one later. USCR, that's US Concrete. It's just diverging, nice divergent low, but we also just turned down on the PPO. Here's support right here. Let me give you that number, and let me look at this on a longer term chart, about 44.84. This one's coming up on support. It's not a well-defined support level. I'd say it's a support range right here. So it might, and certainly you can see this is a 2-day period chart. Every candlestick's 2 days. It just goes back 4 years. And you can see the divergence setting up. So this one does look like it's coming up. We'll have to hone down an entry on that, but I think that's good for a bounce trade at least. And that's USCR. But we don't have a buy signal as of yet. Maybe soon. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. And of course, if any of these really stand out and I scrub them for earnings and have a high degree of confidence, I'll put them as official trade ideas. REVG, I've mentioned this one in the last video as well. This is they make ambulances, fire engines, all kinds of vehicles, RVs, that kind of stuff. And looking at this downtrend line, needs to take out 1705 with conviction. It's flirted with it yet, but not impulsively. But I think when it does, these earnings, by the way, are wrong. I checked. This one's already reported. Earnings.com, or that earnings site that I use, Earnings Whispers, had it wrong on September 5th, so disregard that. So here's your targets, 1857, this downtrend line, and if that's taken out, ultimately up here at about 2350. Yeah, a lot of potential in that one. So SOCL, let's see. SOCL is social media ETF, Global X Social Media Index ETF. Recently broke down. The selling's been impulsive, but look at the support level. That's the thing. If you were looking for a bounce trade, that's why I highlighted this one. A lot of reactions off this level here. So there's one that might produce a bounce trade. I know Twitter, for example, is coming up. There was some chat in the trading room. Twitter, this is a support zone. I'd be most interested, very interested on Twitter around 2740 if it gets there. There's the top of my support zone. I look at that, I see this little action. It looks like bear flagging to me. Probably if we zoom in here on the intraday chart, maybe this is a bear flag continuation pattern. So one more thrust down. So I wouldn't step into Twitter yet, but I mentioned taking Facebook a few days ago. I already sold it, bought it down here, gamed that pop, got out of it. But there's one also at resistance there, another big social media company. So I don't see a lot of downside right now on Facebook near term, but if it breaks that level, it could. But either way, social, like I said, more of a bounce trade than a buy and hold at this point, because I do think these guys are going lower over time. SKY. Uh, hmm. That was actually I must have had that one on a short originally. Yeah, looks like a bearish rising wedge breakdown. All I'm looking at here, I guess if you're, I probably shouldn't even have covered this one. At most, I'm looking at a bounce trade. This was my first price target here, and so maybe a reaction off that level. But ultimately, I think this one goes back down here to 1987. So it's not worth stepping in to try to game a bounce trade on that one. So let's ignore that one. A PPS. Apps, Digital Turbine, another one that just broke down from its trend line, primary trend line, but it's setting up in this bullish falling wedge pattern. Let me clean that lower line up as it should be right there. You can see nice clean. It's actually broken out. It's starting to move up. Not so much on volume. You might want to check earnings. I think it's good up to here at about, oh, it's a low price stock too. Be careful with that. About 158. Maybe it comes all the way back up here to 192. That would be about the max. I'd be looking for that. But again, that's low price. TSRO, did I not cover that one already? No. Tesaro, biotech company, potential divergence and a pretty nice downtrend line to watch. This one's in a price channel, this falling price channel. And let's see, I don't see much on the weekly that stands out. Maybe a little bit of support there. Not my favorite, but one you can certainly watch for breakout of that trend line. Let's see if I have any more here. Nope, that's about it. Those are the ones at least that I circled yesterday. I've got pages and pages of trade ideas in front of me. If I come across any others, I'll point those out. And again, if you have any questions on any of these stocks, just drop me a line in the trading room, and I will be more than glad to, kind of hone in on the chart, maybe hone in on some price targets and entries a little, if I wasn't specific on any of these trade ideas. This has been Randy Finney with Right Side of the Chart. Hope you